focus on Liberia. Hit it. From Cape Mount to Cape Palmer, Mount Nimba to Atlantic Ocean, Obomi Hills to Boakai, to educate, elevate, and promote. Yeah, focus on Liberia. For Liberia, Liberia. For Liberia, yeah, 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 yeah. From Monday to Sunday. From Monday to Sunday. It's focus on Liberia. Talk about home affairs. Hey. In diaspora. Current affairs. Reliable information. History. Ooh. Talking about culture. Politics. Education. Entertainment. Business. Sports. Advertisement. Articulation. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. From Monday to Sunday. Focus on.
You are muted, Nangbe, you are muted.
Okay, good evening and welcome to Between the Headlines. It's Monday evening, 7:30 here on the East Coast, and good to have you here. Welcome also to our audience. Thanks for joining us. So tonight we have three topics. One, we will look at the progress made so far, if any, on the government's asset declaration effort. And then there is also a report out by the Transparency International gauging Liberia's corruption perception index. We'll take a look at that. And also, the president was pretty busy in Addis Ababa. Among many things, he made a speech supporting the effort for reparation of African Africans and people of African descent. And so we'll take a look at that as well. Again, thank you for joining us. Let's introduce our panelists, beginning with Nat. Boakai seems to be struggling, so we'll come back to him. Dr. Pearson, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Mr. Nangbe, for having me. It's a pleasure being on the show tonight. I just want to say hi to my fellow panelists and to the many viewers and listeners out there. It's always a pleasure being on the show.
Thank you. So it's a pleasure having you. Mohammed, Mr. Sherry, welcome, brother. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, it's always good to be here. And I was saying that if my device acts up, I might change devices. I'm not in the country right now, and I'm all the way down in India, so I don't know. It was acting up. Hopefully, it stays this way. But if it asks about be going in and out,
understandable. Permission granted. Duke, are you settled in? Welcome.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you, Jay Victor. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you for making the time. So, gentlemen, a couple of days ago, the president shocked the world. The president of Liberia threw a bombshell, effectively suspending a little over 450 government employees for their failure to declare their assets. Ever since then, so much has happened. There are denials by some of the people on the list. There are also calls for some people to be added to the list. And then there's just shock over the number of people who have gone without heeding the government's advice, including the president's ultimatum issued back in November, for all under his pen to declare their assets. So let's take a look at what has happened so far, if any progress has been made. Just to kind of narrow it down, we know two of the ministers, I believe the Minister of Health and also the Minister of Education. Health being Dr. Poto, Louise Maplek Poto. She was my schoolmate at Cotton. And also Dr. Jaso Jala at the Ministry of Education. They both have indicated that they declared their assets, I believe, back in August. But somehow I think they found themselves on the list. Apparently, one person so far that I am aware of, Mohammed Ba, I believe he's the ambassador on investment, I believe also. So, but let's see, Dr. Pearson, have you heard anything else other than what I just spoke about?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Nangbe. We've been following very closely since the president made that gave that press release suspending over 400 persons for failing to declare their assets. So just for the benefit of those who are listening, so we do have a law in Liberia that is called the Code of Conduct.
Correct.
That was passed under Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf administration, and President Boakai was vice president at the time. And one of the things the Code of Conduct requires is that certain positions in government, especially appointed position, elected position, individuals have to declare their assets and their liabilities to tell the government how much they own and have and owe out there before coming into to government 30 days before taking office. And that instrument was actually intended so that we can have some control over corruption to determine over time if you can measure what you currently have when you leave in office to what you brought in, and whether it commensurate with your salary, whether it lines up with your salary and your benefits that they receive while you're in government. So if there's any reason for doubt in your post position declaration, which means after you've left office, and they have doubt that you amass wealth that does not correspond with your income, then they can question it. But what I think we saw quite recently under President Boakai is that he himself did not declare his asset on time, which gave him time to also beef up his own accounts if he had to do so with money from the covers before declaration. We think that's questionable. And we saw his officials also delay in declaring the assets, which also gave reason for doubt in the same way. So initially, we all had disenchantment over the president's reluctance to declare his assets, which was something that he campaigned on while coming to power. So advocacy have been so strong against the president to ensure that all his officials declare assets. After many times the president tried to get his cabinet and his members in his government to declare the assets failed, the president saw this as a last resort to just suspend those who did not listen to his call over 3 times to have the assets declared. And what we've seen so far, and Mr. Nangbe referred to, just for our listeners, just a background, is that on the president's declaration for this suspension, we've seen a lot of confusion in the data that the president was relying on to carry out the suspension, because there are people who are claiming that they did declare the assets prior to the president's statement for suspension, and there are those who say, well, the president was not fair to them by, properly implementing that order by making sure he has an updated list on his desk. So yes, Mr. Nangbe, you are right. There are a few individuals who came up upbraiding and criticized the process and said they have previously declared the assets and show proof on social media of the page that gave the dates of the day that they declared the assets prior to the president's pronouncements, and there are those who have gone to declare the assets after the president's announcements. So yes, there are some shift in behavior from government officials, but we think overall it's a good thing, even though I thought it was just a political charade for the AU meeting.
Thank you, Dr. Pearson. Mohammed Bashiri, thanks again to Dr. Pearson. He gives kind of good history of how we got where we are. In your thinking, putting on your political analyst hat, well, what do you think the president seeks to accomplish after he himself um, flagrantly violated the code of conduct? As Dr. Pearson indicated, the code of conduct actually requires that you declare prior to coming into office. This president did not declare until somewhere around June or so, and yet now he is finding this righteous indignation to ask over 450 people. And don't you think they're saying, "But wait a minute, we're in the same boat, Mr. President"?
Yeah. So someone has to start something, right? Hopefully you guys can hear me.
Yes, we hear you very well.
Someone has to start something. And in the Weir administration, none of this stuff was done. That was a big disappointment for me. So the fact that Boakai has kick-started something like this is commendable, even though it's half hard to agree with Clarence on the issue that he raised. The contention that he raised, or the concerns that he raised with the president himself. So it seems, from his analysis, the president is disingenuous for all intents and purposes. However, I feel like, someone has to start. So these days, Victor, uh, what we're not seeing in presidential leadership is, a president mustering the courage to start something. So I think that the fact that Boakai has kickstarted something like this, maybe he doesn't have to. He's probably not going to finish this. He's probably not going to go anywhere. But now it's up to the new generation of leaders, the next president, whoever that is, to pick up the mantle where he left off, where he will be leaving off, to say this is something we need to do. Is it going to happen? I have my doubts. I mean, these people do not like us to know how much they're even paid. They're well paid. All of these guys, the different branches of government. Our speaker is paid better paid than Speaker Johnson of the United States House of Representatives. Our president pro temp in Liberia is better paid than the president pro temp of the Liberian Senate. That doesn't make any sense. So the fact that these guys, are not declaring asset, they're hesitant to do that, it's a problem, right? I mean, because what is asset declaration? It's simple financial disclosures. I mean, I'm a public employee in the United States, and every year by law we have to declare our financial assets. These financial disclosures are mandatory. If you don't, you go to jail, and that's how it is here in the United States for those of us who work in the public sector. So it should be a normal routine. It shouldn't call for the president to suspend you before you try to, come up with a statement. If you are the Minister of Health, that stuff should already be on your website, on the Ministry of Health and Social Welfare website. If you're the Minister of Education, not send it to the president's office. That stuff should already be on your website, well published, so that everyone can know this. All of this stuff should be in newspapers, carrying newspapers and stuff like that, but they are not. And people now are saying, well, I file mine, here's mine. How sure are we that these people actually file before the deadline expires? So I have my doubts. And this is, one of the things, lastly, is that, asset declaration, at least, is an attempt to keep public officials, accountable, to keep public officials honest, so to speak, and for the public to have an insight on their assets and resources, sources of income, or public, conflict of interest if any exists. In Liberia, there's a whole lot of conflict of interest. You have these guys, senators and representatives, running companies, and they're bidding, and these companies don't bid, so there's no big contracts go to these companies. All of these guys most of the guys that are in the House of Representatives and in the Senate have private companies, and what is anyone doing about this?
Thank you.
I say that they're fleecing the nation, and that has to stop. That has to stop.
Thank you very much. And I must say, really, I can't imagine how much sacrifice you must be making joining us all the way from the Far East. I don't even know what time it is over there.
Yeah, it's morning now, Tuesday morning, 6
Yeah,
6
yeah. I imagine. But thanks for making time.
Yeah,
Duke, Mohammed made lots of comments and several good points. Let me ask you this: Who did the president drop the ball here, or are these 447 people? Are they really the ones who dropped the ball here? I mean, I'm trying to figure out how did we get to this stage. The government came into office since January. We're in February of the following year, and the president has suddenly realized, that assets must be declared. So, did the president drop the ball, or this president just has so much going on and he's just trying to catch up? Pastor Silly, welcome. We'll get to you. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, Duke.
Victor, there's no question about it. Remember, the buck stopped with the president. So he is in charge, and all the people who are suspended, they all work at his pleasure, as the Constitution requires. But you see, Victor, this is something that we've always spoken against. This I really appreciated Dr. Pearson's elaboration on the code of conduct. So this code of conduct was hailed in 2014 when it was launched, and this was an act that was enacted by the Senate and the House of Representatives, and I think it was a monumental reflection of our new reality, having come from 14 years of war, and when I speak about legislating anti-corruption laws, these are some of the things that I had in mind, and on paper it looks really, really good. And so the enforcement of it now would have been what that would have make all the difference. But we saw the previous government, which is we as government, did not bother to enforce asset declarations. And so Joseph Boakai ran on it as one of his platform item that he was going to impose. But I think, I will look at the totality of what has happened to say, it's better late than never. But in essence, your employment must be contingent upon you declare your assets. And you see, this asset declaration, I think people always forget about one aspect of it. I mean, asset declaration contain everything you have owned.
Right.
Movable, non-movable assets.
So
money.
let me ask you this. Let me ask you, and don't lose your thought. Are you suggesting to us that we should give the president a little bit of pass because the former president did not bother with asset declaration, and therefore, even though if the president is doing it belatedly, but the fact that he's even doing it, we should give him some credit? Is that your argument?
Yeah, that's part of my argument. But I'm also saying that the president did run on this, even though, and this is where I think
he did. It was one of his cornerstones of his campaign.
That's right.
He was on the VOA prior to taking office, making this declaration that he will fight corruption. So I'm just trying to juxtapose that on what you're trying to feed us here, dude.
Yeah. And you see, that's why I say in the onset that yes, the president dropped the ball. I mean, because everything starts with him. And so I think the enforcement of these code of conduct should have been rigorous. And again, your employment should have been contingent upon it. If you do not, like I said, you got things that you must go through. If you did not declare your asset, then you're not getting the job. And I mean, the rigorous enforcement that we are seeing now, people being suspended, that should have happened in January or February, or not later than March. You
Right.
know, you know what?
And the law says prior to, even though the
That's right,
three
and
the three stages is all lays out
that's
prior
right,
to, during, and when you're leaving. I think those are the
that's
three
right.
stages. Right.
That's right. It's clear because, and then once you start that, people who are coming in later who haven't been confirmed yet, now they know. Besides whatever they have to do, they know that declaring their asset is one more thing that they need to do in order to make sure that they get that job that they are vying for. So the enforcement aspect of it is what that was lacking, and is what that got us to where we are today. And I don't think it should have taken uh, you know threatening 450 people dismissal before
Right.
someone will even think of doing it. But
Thank you.
again, like I said, is one small step, a little too late. But nevertheless, it has happened. I just hope that the same rigorousness that he's dealing with this code of conduct, we should see it in other areas of the government that will help to curb this menace that is corruption.
Thank you, Duke. Pastor Silva, again, welcome to the show. The topics we are discussing today, I'm sure you got them. Three topics so far. We're still on the progress made so far, if any, on the asset declaration. Previous speakers have made some very good points. The last speaker is saying, the president, we should cut him a little bit of slack, although this is done belated. But when this pronouncement was made, a lot of us, including yourself, were on this network and saying, you know what, we think this is now going to cripple the LACC because there'll be so many people, there'll be a flurry of activities. It will crash the whole agency because people will be rushing to beat the deadline. Have you seen that happening?
Not
SK?
at all.
No.
Not at all. I've not seen
Why
that.
not? If you want to take a guess, what do you think? Why?
Because this is just another form of window dressing. Okay, there's nothing serious behind it. You see, I listened to all the other speakers, and I think they are on point. The problem here is um, our political ecosystem. We've not decided to be serious with ourselves. We've not decided to be honest with ourselves. Um, right from the get go, nobody has been doing it. I mean, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf should have been the best person who should have ushered in this wave of access declaration. I
Yeah,
mean, given all the profile she came under, she's this, and given the fact that over 30 years before she ascended to the presidency, she's been advocating. Ellen was behind the mastermind of the mayhem that was created in Liberia, the brutal, senseless, brutal civil war. Ellen fingerprint was all over it. She wanted this thing so bad for over 30 years, right from the time of Tubman. She's been involved with this thing. So I thought after 30 years of struggle to get to the presidency, she was coming ready to do some change. She did nothing. I don't think Ellen ever declared her own access. She did not force officials to declare. JMB did not declare his access when he was vice president. Maybe he did. I don't remember, and I stand to be corrected. So 12 years, Ellen ran the country. No, I never heard any public official that declared access. We came, nobody did it. JMB campaign on, hey, this is going to be done. And that's why I don't want us to keep alluding to we administration, because everything that was wrong with we administration was why JMB was elected, so that he will correct. So going right back there, and he himself delayed to do it. And after 1 year before he's trying to suspend people, I don't think, like I said last week, I think there's still something behind that move that I'm waiting to see why he suspended all those people all at once for access declaration. I think he was just trying to, like I said in my words, maybe throw us some shiny object that we could be chasing to forget some of the real thing that was happening. So we got to get serious with politics in Liberia. Access declaration, to add to what Brother Mohammed said, it's not just financial disclosure, it's more than that. Access declaration is more than financial disclosure. Access declaration is a means of trying to curb corruption too, because any government, any administration that is serious to curb corruption, he will begin with that, because we want to know what you had before you came to office and what you have after you left office. That's what the assets declaration, so we can know, we can draw the line. How did you amass all this wealth? We want to know all your streams of income, your sources of income. What properties did you own? What debt did you owe? Because we don't want public officials that will be compromised. You could be owing so much debt, you are compromised. Corruption will be inevitable when it comes to whatever you do with your office, because you're so much indebted. And we saw example of that. People that Boakai appointed that were indebted to banks. And, we saw the things that happen. So corruption has so many faces. And that's why assets declaration is a good place to start. So any leader that is honest about fighting corruption, that's the first place you will start. Ellen never did it. Ellen talked about zero tolerance to corruption, but there was nothing about assets declaration. So I knew it was just rhetoric. I had no expectation when it came to I know those were a bunch of serious people. JMB campaigned on this. He did not start with assets declaration. He went with it. After 1 year, he's doing this. As far as I'm concerned, there's no teeth to it. There's no seriousness to it. I think he has some ulterior motives, and I'm with it. I'm sure we will find that out soon.
Thank you, Dr. Pearson. There's Duke indicated, I think this code of conduct, I believe, was revised also in 2014. This is when this current president was vice president. So he is very, very aware of the existence and the magnitude and implications of this asset recovery, the ability to track corruption. I believe, as you indicated, it gives us an opportunity to do a lifestyle audit of those who are coming in government. It gives us an idea of what you're coming with, what kind of baggage you're coming with, what kind of liabilities. All of these things are important to government actors to keep the government transparent. How is it you think that this question has bedeviled this government? I mean, I hate to say we said so, but a lot of us said it here. We said this is going to harm this government. The president's own reluctance to declare his asset when he took office. Now here we are, 1 year in, over 250 people. Why do you think this is posing to be such a problem for this government?
To be frank, Mr. Nagbe, it's sad to mention, but it's the fact that a lot of our people come to government and they are so intention for coming to government is to amass wealth, especially when they have not had the opportunity to either obtain wealth honestly and by hard work. And sometimes they even serve in government, but they have the mindset that when they are in power, they are all powerful, and they forget to know that even in government, they are tenure, they are time frame. So if you want an election and you come to power, your assumption is that you will dominate for the next 2 terms and you will stay in power, and then your party will take over the next election for 3rd term, and somebody close to the party will take power. So you get disillusioned by the fact that you are in power and you're going to be there forever. So people misuse and abuse the wealth that they acquire while they're working in government at a time. And so if you take a quick look, and I know the partisan is going to get very annoyed with me, but I live in Liberia, Mr. Nagbe. I've seen people who went into government, into legislature, they were riding fancy cars. By the time they were elected out of office, the next 2, 3, 4, 5 months, by the time they reach half a year, 6 months, they were walking along with the ordinary citizen and looking for taxi. They couldn't afford to buy their own gasoline. They couldn't afford to pay their own rent. Some of them did not even build their own homes initially, and that's the reason why after the President Taylor had left, and majority of his government officials suffered that rude awakening. Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf and her own couple of officers that came after her went on the rampage, building their own homes and amassing wealth for themselves. Unfortunately, President Boakai was not successful in catching up with that mentality. All right. So you find President Boakai, after serving in government for over 40 plus years as a public servant, served as vice president for over 12 years, and president of the Senate for over 12 years, with huge budget. We resort to even coming to public international media and saying he lived on loan. He went to borrow from loans, and that's how he lived his life. And we saw people humiliate the elderly statesman on social media, telling how they pay his rent, they bought his food, they bought a transformer for his house, to give him electricity. And then at the end of the day, when the old man traveled even to the United States during the campaign period, we saw him in people's basement, sleeping in people's basement. All right. And at the end of the day, when he becomes president, he definitely will have to delay his declaration. Why? Because he doesn't want the embarrassment to show that he come into the office broke. He wants to come there showing they got $1 or $2 to his name. And what I've heard from close friends, now when I was close on this, some of our friends who did declare the asset early and tried to be unfair to Liberian people borrow money from abroad, borrow money from friends and put it into their account and declare that account based on what money they were able to borrow. And then after the LCC did the asset declaration, they returned the friends' money back to them. And we know about these things. So now they have all acquired as much as they can to show that they have wealth. And now they can declare it. So I think it's a charade, and I think it's a political bluff. And I think the president is only being serious now because he's past the threshold of the embarrassment I would have had him, for him to face the public. So, yeah. But I think, like what my colleagues have said, is a step in the right direction. We applaud it, and we hope that we will not give people the room to make play the kind of games in the future. But they are all broke. Now, with that bottom line, they are all broke.
Thank you. Mohammed, I'm coming to you. So thank you, Dr. Pierce. I think the point you're making, and many people have made that point to me, that some of the people on that list may not have even had any asset to declare at all. That's possible. But there's also concern about the capacity of the LACC to verify, as Dr. Pearson is indicating. I mean, if you fraudulently go and acquire asset just for the sake of passing the test of declaration, shouldn't that even be concerning, Mohammed?
You're talking about the enforcement agency?
Yeah, their capacity to verify what these people are presenting as their assets. Some of the assets are overseas.
Yeah, if not most, are in stuff in Swiss bank accounts, American bank accounts, other bank accounts, that are far away from Liberia. And so, McLaren's mentioned a point where he said that, that in order to meet the requirement, people were stuffing their account with other people's money. So how unpatriotic can you be to assist someone, a friend, stuff their account, and then just to meet the requirement? So that's how low the bar is for these kinds of things. Although I still maintain that having this discussion by itself, right? So the bar is so low that having the discussion by itself, the president laying this out here, someone like myself, oh my goodness, this is novel. This is novelty. This is something that I've never, in the previous years, in the most recent years, this hasn't happened before. This hasn't happened. So the fact that this has been talked about, and there are threats of suspension, which never happened in the previous administration. So, we're going, I guess you could say then, you're going in the right direction. But it is so hard, if you're being realistic, to say that, everything is pointing, the arrow is pointing in that one right direction, because there are various contradictions, as we will hopefully discuss on the show. The administration that is now discussing these things, the president that is now enforcing this. Someone just mentioned, one of the previous speakers mentioned, the president was late on declaring his own assets. There has been a whole host of issues around the president, and the executive mansion has been mute on those issues.
Right.
there are financial issues, alleged financial improprieties from individuals, around the president or the executive mansion. So, these are issues that need to be front and center of an administration that's committed to accountability and transparency.
Thank you. Duke, from the most recent announcement, the action by the government, there have been, various people have come out, to voice out various concerns about the process. There are allegations, there are names on that list that of people who may have been passed on to the great beyond, and also there are names on that list that probably shouldn't have been there or should have been there that are not. Well, notably, there are three people apparently who are on that list. Two being ministers in the president's government, the Minister of Education and the Minister of Health. And then there is also Ambassador designate Edward, I believe, Appleton. His argument is that he just got designated and he's getting ready to go for his confirmation, and so he's waiting for his confirmation before he declares. Does he have an argument here?
I will tell you, he has no argument, zero argument there. I mean, the law, the code of conduct is very, very clear. There's nothing ambiguous about it, and so he has no standing. But you have to remember, J. Victor, the tradition, the culture is people's intention usually to go to the public service is to enrich themselves. And not only enriching themselves, but to also, in the process, to defraud the Liberian people.
Right.
Now, because of the callousness and the unseriousness with which we deal with these things,
Right.
people have come to normalize this way of doing things as the normal way of doing things.
And
so,
I hate to do this to you because I think I did it to you earlier. I cut you off, but please let me come in just briefly. Let me remove me. So this Appleton, he's coming from locale. He's already in the government, right? So I agree with you. His argument doesn't hold water. But now there are calls for an audit of this agency that he just recently left, which is now embroiled in the scandal of such magnitude, which has led to the suspension of Ms. Swakoko Dennis.
that's right.
He was one of the vice presidents at this agency. So I just wanted to throw that.
Vic, I think that's a good point you've just raised, and I just want to add to that. In fact, before anything can be done, before he can even go for a Senate confirmation, I think his investigation needs to be fast tracked. They need to audit him, and they need to check because of the mess that is now being created at Nokal,
Right.
and to come to a determination as to what role, if any, did he play in that saga, and get himself clear before he can proceed. And I mean, this is on a common sense that would dictate that to anyone who is a keen observer of how government functions. And so this is just this is a no-brainer here, dear Victor, because if you are serious and you want to see the results of your actions, these are some of the things, and I think Appleton could have been a shining example for the president. What, he's coming from a troubled institution where there are things that have happened that led to the suspension of the head of that agency. It is now time to scrutinize to find out did he play any role in it, and if so, what should be done. So all of these things must be clear before they can put this thing forward for any other position. So I mean, this is just I would expect anyone in his position to come up with a defense, but as you can see, his defense is just so weak. It doesn't hold water. It doesn't make sense, and it's only I'm only surprised to see that the manner in which the president is enforcing this order. I think, considering the fact that this ultimatum was given to them in November of 2024, and nobody heeded the ultimatum. So I think the president is, and this is why I hold him to contempt, because of the fact that he was slow, and he did not, even his own deadline that he gave, he did not enforce it, and it slacked. And this is the danger. People have now come to internalize this way of doing things as the proper way, and this is where the danger lies. Yeah, Victor, because if in at the get-go, if this president has said, you know what, if you do not declare asset, you are not going to get confirmed, you're not going to go for Senate for confirmation,
Right.
and then bring the next person who is willing to declare the asset again. It's very well possible some of these people are coming to government with no assets. Declare it, let people see you have no asset. And for those of them that have assets, they should declare them. I mean, if we are serious, having gone through 40 years of killing ourselves, and now we want to chart a new course in our new republic.
Right.
Curbing corruption should have been the front and center of everything that we've done, that we would do moving forward. And so, in that process, after declaration should have been prominent in any step that we would take. And again, like we said, legislate these processes like they have done, and enforce them rigorously with no favor. And I mean, it doesn't matter. I think the Republic of Liberia is rich with lots of talent in and outside the republic. And so, if John Brown is not up to the job, go to the next person. There are a lot of people who are willing to serve their country, and they are willing to abide by the laws, by the rules that govern their position. So again, it falls back on President Boakai, his inability to be effective from the get-go that led us to where we are. Again, as you can see, even international media has picked it up. And the commentary is that Liberia is making strides in fighting corruption. You and I know the level of corruption in Liberia today, particularly under President Joseph Boakai, compared to where it was before he came in. We know where it is. We know where things are. So, I mean, this is something that we shouldn't have been talking about it the way we are now, because of the ineptness and the inability to be rigorous as he should be, led us to where we are today. Nevertheless, I can tell you, Africa has zero argument that is. I mean, I think he needs to be cleared by an audit, rigorous one. Even if possible, they need to do a forensic audit to make sure that his hand is not involved in any of the mess that is at Nokal. So again, my personal view is that I don't even think we need Nokal. We don't need it. The investment arm of the government, which is National Investment Agency, all these things should be there with different divisions. There could be one division of the national investment where the oil sector is there. I mean, it's just a host of things that is wrong with the whole process. And Joseph Boakai has exhibited to us by his actions that he's incapable of dealing with them.
So, Duke, before I leave you, relative to Ambassador Designate Appleton, in again relating him to the service at NOCAL, if you were the sender on foreign relations or on the executive, whoever is responsible to confirm him, A, deny him, B, wait for the audit at NOCAL, C, confirm him, D, or D, not sure what to do. Again, A, do not confirm, B, wait for the audit, C, confirm, D, not sure what to do. What would be your choice?
I mean, I would say wait for the audit.
Wait for the audit.
Yes.
SD Salif, same question. Confirm, deny, wait, not sure.
I'm not sure, because in the first place, and I think you had asked a question before about him declaring his access. I thought it was a question of a statement somebody made, and he said he was waiting to be confirmed before he can declare his access.
I said correct.
Disclaimer: Appleton is a friend. We're working on some things together, and
Okay.
yep. So let me put that out there.
Okay.
But that is.
But that was not your. That was not your. I have your question, Cam. I just wanted your reason to that particular question.
Is that for your 2029 presidential run?
Mohammed, don't start trouble.
Mohammed is building a team here already.
You can join the team.
Appleton on his team. I don't know.
You can join the team.
Right. So, Dr. Pearson, I saw your post. You said the former president we had declared 6 months in.
I thought you said you had a question for me.
I do. Now, our colleague, Visa Leave, Uncle V, he is also alleging that this current president declared in February. So I want you to, since you're giving us the research, I want you to check on that when we come to you. I want you to please confirm whether this current president actually did declare in February or not. If you have the research, that's fine. If you don't, that's okay. But SC Soleil, I was coming to you. So, all this is happening. And I listened to an interview granted by the Director General of the Civil Service, Josiah Jokai. Already, he's calculating how much money this is going to save the government because in his mind's eye, those who are on that list will not be paid for February. So far, he has identified over 100 spending agencies, according to him, and that might save him in excess of 100,000. He believes there will be another maybe 200 agencies, state enterprise agencies, another maybe $200,000 saved here. Is he counting his eggs too early, or does he have a point here? Because these people, according to the president's, instructions suspending them, they were suspended either for 1 month or pending declaration of their assets, something like that. I don't remember the exact wording of that letter, but apparently the Civil Service Director believed they are already suspended for all of February at least. And now Mohammed Ba is already saying he already declared his assets, so that's like less than a week. Should he get paid? Should the Civil Service Director already be thinking about cashing in on these people's salary, or should they wait? Should he wait?
Let me start off this way. 2 Thessalonians 3:10 says, "He who does not work must not eat." So I don't see why anybody who's on that list, even if you were there just for a day, you declare your access. For the fact you got on that list, you shouldn't get paid for February. For the fact you are on that list, but I know the president does not have the will to do that. He does not have that the volition. He doesn't have the political will to even do that. So if you think Josiah Jokai is counting his eggs too early, that could be true, because at the end of the day, the buck doesn't stop with Jokai, it stops with Mr. President. What I was trying to say before you came in and then we stopped was, yes, Appleton is a friend, but he ran for president before.
He did.
Okay, matter of fact,
he took my CPP votes.
Good.
Know?
So this gone election, he came third. He came third place. He came third place. He came third place. So waiting to be confirmed for as ambassador designate before you declare your access. If Liberia was a serious political country, for the fact you put your name out there to run for president, you should declare your access. So if he already declared his access before running for president, why should it be difficult? Why do you have to wait till you are?
And then he was already in the government prior to this ambassador.
You were already there, so your access declaration should already be there. So the few months, whatever you acquire in that time, is just to make quick update to it and send it. So I don't think the waiting until I'm confirmed before I do it, I don't think that was a strong position. But yes, everyone who's on that list, for the fact you got on the list,
right,
should deprive you of that February salary. Because there's no reason that you sat down for 1 year and you didn't do it. Now the list came out last week. Now you suddenly declare your access. What sense does it make?
So let me put you on the spot here, and if you don't know the answer, you don't know it. But any of us can take a stab at this. Suppose these people declare, right? Let's assume somebody will declare tomorrow, but they declare assets that, and again, we're wondering about the capacity of the CCC, LCC to verify these assets. So, what's some of the assets that will be declared were acquired, say, 3 months ago, 6 months ago? Why these people were already serving in government? What are we going to do about it?
It's like you got into my mind, because when you started, that's exactly where I was going.
Right.
It for transparency, anybody declaring their assets now should not include anything that you acquire when you got into office, because that alone is also corruption. Okay,
Right.
you cannot access this access declaration is late. It should have been done before you took office. So anything in that access declaration cannot include anything after you took office. It has to be everything before you took office. But there's a caveat to this. I will want to see even what you have acquired based on your dates from the time you took office, because that will also tell me that in 1 year you already amassed this amount of wealth. So then, giving you the remaining 5 years, you are going to completely loot the country. So it would be good to know what have they also acquired just in 1 year. Like people like President Weah, who by the time he did inauguration, he started knocking down his non-street house and rebuilding and doing condominiums. So people that were sleeping in room with their brothers, they had nothing. They came into government, immediately they became overnight sensationally rich people. So corruption has many faces. So number one, anybody on that list, they should not be paid for February. In fact, I will even punish them for 2 months. They shouldn't be paid, because you sat down for 1 whole year to do this. And then 2, for transparency, whatever you acquire, it should your assets declare what happened from the time you took office, because
thank you. Excuse me for a second, Dennis, whoever is, if you're listening, Mohammed Sherry is backstage. I think he's trying to come back in. He had to switch devices. So
I sat down backstage for a while too.
Yeah, but I'm sorry. Are you concluded, ST?
Yeah. You can let's move on.
Okay. Before we move on, Dr. Pearson, do you have anything on that? On the current president, when I think he declared in June, but is this Sheriff? What's our friend last name? Valley. Is this Sheriff? Anyway, he posted Kamara. Yes, I'm sorry. That this current president declared in February. Anyway, we'll come back to it. If you pick something up, just let us. Gentlemen, we're going to move on to the next topic.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
So this is the thing, right? That's why public trust is very important in governance. Like Mr. Dukley said earlier, and Salif also made some reference to that. If you do not follow the letter of the law within accordance of the prescription within the law, you raise a level of doubt in the minds of the ordinary people, and they get skeptical of your saying or your actions. So in February, precisely February 8th, President Boakai made a visit at the Anti-Corruption Commission office, where he said he declared his assets. Now, but the point here is that Liberians are very, very not trusting of their government and politicians. So Liberians are like, listen, we're not convinced that you actually declare your asset. It could just be a political show, right? But then the president did not take any action until June. Then he published it. So the idea of the publishing of that asset was to clarify the doubts in the minds of the populace. But why will you wait 4 months after declaration or 6 months into your first term for the public to know exactly what you say you declare? So he's not better than George Weah. We keep saying this thing over and over. They try to set the pace that they are better than the past administration. But look, they are not giving us any any ammunition to work with here. I mean, they are not doing anything better than what they came to replace. It's just as simple. And let me just be fact, let me say this about Appleton. Don't forget, right, Mr. Nagbe, Appleton was on the board of directors of the NOCA that is in question just now. Appleton was entangled into another fraudulent system where they said they were trying to pay themselves astronomically.
Yes.
That's one of the reasons why he was even crying and say even if they caused him, we were going to leave to protect his reputation.
Yeah.
Right? So now he got transferred out without any investigation and any clarity on that scandal. Now now he gets to go all the way to represent us outside of the country. How do we run country like this? So I will be, to answer your question, I wouldn't even appoint that man to any other office in government because he shown untrustworthy from the very beginning. And this is a guy who just put a face in the political space for the first time. Nobody knew him from anywhere. He was a mystery man in the election. Right? And so it's sad for our country. It's very sad.
Thank you. Let me stay with you there quickly. We're going to segue into the next topic, which is, of course, the Transparency International. This is an agency that tracks corruption, and is, perception throughout the world. I think some 180 countries or something like that. And they rank these countries, based on transparency, and I think Liberia for a very long time was sitting at 25. I believe they went up 2 points. But one of the things they cited was again failure of this government to declare the asset. I think it's one of the things. So they say, even though we seem to be making a little bit of progress, but those are key points that we're still feeling on. Dr. Pearson, should we be celebrating here? We went up 2 points, and this has not happened in, I think they said since 2014. I'm not sure, but for a while we've been stuck either at 25 or less. Now we're at 27. Should we be celebrating?
I don't think we should be celebrating, Mr. Nagbe. If you look in the chat, I did put a spreadsheet, a snippet of a spreadsheet I'm doing. Because a lot of time when these things come up, people turn to politicize them, to score political school. And to do that is to take away from the reality of the Liberian people and their suffering. Corruption has been one of the most prominent factor that have kept our country back for so long. And what I did was I didn't look at the first 6 years of Erling and President Boakai. I looked at the second year of President Erling term of in office with President Boakai, and I look at former President Weah's first year in office. It was surprising to note that it did take the CDC administration to start to bring down the indicators on corruption in our country, even though, and I want to emphasize this, even though Madam Ellen Johnson took over along with President Boakai, a clean slate to begin a new page for Liberia. They took on a clean slate. But if you look at that spreadsheet I gave you, 2012, we scored 41, fail. 2013, we scored 38, fail. 2017 was 2014 we scored 37, 15 we scored 37, 16 we scored 37, 2017 31, 2018 32, 2019 28, 2020 28, 2021 29, 2026 2022 26, 2023 25. So you see a much deeper decrease in our corruption index under the Weah administration. And the reason for that is that the IMF and the World Bank have become so rigid on us to ensure that we meet certain policy prescription in order for us to benefit from IMF and World Bank and stuff like that. So that pressure that was on Samuel Tuwed and others who were at the time in government contributed towards the bringing down of that index. It has nothing to do with Joseph Boakai. It has nothing to do with President Boakai's administration. In fact, I would say this with all boldness. If we are not careful, Mr. Nagbe, our 2025 index will be worse than we see right now. Looking at all of the scandal we're having. And I'll close by saying this. The gradual decrease in our corruption index is a contributing factor to even the MCC scorecard that we passed in for 2023, working to 2024. So let us be cautious not to celebrate something that is not there, to give our politicians the feel that everything is okay when it is not. Listen, our illegal speaker, said Fonati Kofa is corrupt. Fonati Kofa budget in 2023 was 1 million. Today, 2024, the illegal speaker who can move the corrupt speaker, his budget line that we have not seen yet on the website, but in the one they got circulating illegally is 5 million.
The regime speaker?
The regime speaker budget is 5 million. Fonati Kofa, who they say was corrupt, is 1 million. Can you imagine that?
No wonder why is reconditioned. There are videos circulating purport to be him upgrading his mansion and all of that. But that's discussion for another day. Mohammed, welcome back. I had to go get Dennis. He was on the farm. He forgot his key, so he kept it in the back for a while. But welcome back. But let me ask you this. Dr. Pearson, he and others, they are quick to remind us that when we pass the MCC's code, this current government, meaning this current government, when I say we, I think the current government passed by 12 points, I believe, out of 20. And the CDC passed by 14 points, I believe, out of 20. They're quick to remind us that the assessment that gave us the 12 points passing mark was even progress that was left us by the outgoing CDC government. So now the perception index has also fallen. Should we blame this on the CDC, or should we let the UP government own it?
It's the 2%.
I mean, I agree with you. The assessment periods may differ. So, but yeah, go ahead and make your point.
So the current 2 percentage point increase under normal circumstances, it should be celebrated. But to celebrate that, you also have to be willing to say this is an improvement and backslap and whatnot. You also have to be willing now to look at the different contradictions. This is a president who has, who dismissed the Minister of Commerce. This president had the courage to suspend the chair of the national oil company, NorCal, and so he has done other things that we will compare him to Weir and say Weir didn't do this, Weir didn't reshuffle. He's been willing to do that, and yet this is also the president under whose administration that lawmakers were bought. Lawmakers, where the money can, everyone, including the journalists in Monrovia, are mute. They don't even ask the question. The president is not saying don't ask this question. The administration is not telling the journalists not to ask the question. The lack of research, the lack of, I guess you could say, know-how and what to ask and what not to ask is crippling the Liberian media, system, so to speak. So people are, I'm not going to say they're afraid to ask these questions, but they don't know what questions to ask. A relevant question will be, we understand that, people were bought. You can say that they were bought. Where did this money come from? Mr. President, do you have any knowledge of this? Mr. Vice President, anytime the Vice President goes on the podium to make a speech, and if he says, I'm only answering 3 questions, well, that should be one of the questions. Where did that money come from? What was the intended purpose of that? These investigations, investigative journalism have to occur, and they're not occurring. So I bring it back to the CPI score. You cannot celebrate the score without talking about all the different things that have also happened. You cannot celebrate the courage the president has taken to suspend alleged corrupt government officials without also talking about the other issues. So we can only hope and pray that the administration will get to a place where all of the other issues, including the president's inner circle of close friends and family members, are also scrutinized and disciplined. Because once upon a time, there was a president, I believe it was William R. Tolbert, who penalized a family member because the family member committed something unlawful. I believe he did that. So these are things they're not hard to do. You can do it and cut ties with friends. You can cut ties with friends. You can cut ties with anybody for the good of the nation. So it remains to be seen if the administration will do that.
Thank you, ST. You know the and I know what Dugu said. You know, we need to cut this president slack. So I'll come to him. But let me ask you this. I mean, let's be honest here. And people are writing in the chat as well. Do we remember president? I mean, this president actually fired. He was forced to remove the commerce minister. And I think there are maybe one or two instances we could probably find around where he has, he has acted to remove, I mean, the Russell and Dennis situation, even though it's just suspension, we know LRRC situation. He seems to be doing more than President Weah did. Do we remember a time when President Weah actually fired anybody for being corrupt while he was president for 6 years?
That's a good question. But again, that's what I keep saying. Trying to draw an analogy between Weah and President Boakai is unfair to some degree, because that's the reason Weah was removed. We say he didn't do those things. He didn't fire corrupt people. He didn't take the steps he's supposed to take. So that's why he was removed, because of those missteps. So I think we're giving President Boakai more credit than he deserved. And the first thing I want to correct is, let's be honest so that we don't deceive our viewers, listeners. Boakai never fired a commerce minister, never suspended him, never even made any comment on what was happening. The commerce minister on his own resigned. And the president only
It's not true.
It is not true.
I hope it's not true.
No.
It's not true what you're saying.
It's not true.
Stop lying.
I am not lying. Your viewers know, and they can put in the chat.
You're lying to
I believe. Then the president.
Hold on.
Hang on, Mohammed.
Not having the courage.
Resigned.
Guys,
so you're lying to the Liberian people again.
Boakai never fired.
You're lying to the Liberian people.
No, you are lying to
Mohammed, give me a second.
He did not resign on his own.
He
did not resign.
Mohammed, give me a second.
He did not resign on his own.
Then
he was forced out.
He was never forced out.
But then the president
gave lying to the Liberian people.
Okay, it's okay.
Then the president gave him.
Let's go ahead. I'm not going to go back and forth with what I know.
I know he said he said he didn't want to be a distraction. I believe something along those lines, and also for his family name, I believe something like that.
The man wrote a letter and resigned.
Then the president also gave him an ultimatum, I believe. Didn't he do that?
After the commerce minister,
so this man is friends with some of these people.
That was the first
people.
Let me come to Mr. Salif.
No, that would be you're coming just a second. Mohammed, please give ST a chance, let him land, and then you can come in.
But he's sitting here saying, so that we don't deceive.
You are deceiving.
What are you talking about deception?
President
Pastor
give me the proof. Just bring the proof. No, bring the proof that Boakai fight you, because you said it, and J. Victor repeated that. That's why I'm saying something. Show the proof here now on air where Boakai fire.
Okay. All right, gentlemen.
It is my turn. It is my turn.
Let's give that.
But let me finish my statement.
Let's give Dr. Pearson a chance to come in.
Let me finish my statement.
Oh, I thought you were done. Okay, Mohammed.
Mohammed keep interrupting me. So Minister Moda on his own, he wrote a letter because he felt this was too much distraction, too much weight on his family. He wrote his letter and he tendered his resignation. That was after his resignation was tendered. That was when Boakai ever spoke on the matter that was happening. Boakai never said anything before. He said it after the fact. So for anybody on this platform to say, oh, he fired him, that is not true. It never happened. Okay, so let's be honest.
Victor, it's very
I want to hear what Dr. Pearson wants to say.
Okay.
You speak a lot of truth, Mohammed. This other truth is not on your side tonight.
So Pastor Salif does not understand.
SC,
Dr.
you made a
Pearson.
point.
So Pastor
Mohammed,
Salif does not understand.
Mohammed, go ahead. Then,
So Pastor Salif does not probably understand the inner workings of politics, the way it works.
No, I don't.
This president, when he came back from a sudden visit, didn't want to meet with didn't want to have anything to do with the commerce minister. That is documented. That is his minister. One of the most important positions in government is the commerce minister, probably besides the minister of foreign affairs and the minister of finance. Commerce minister is right up there with them. So how are you not going to meet with your commerce minister? So when you add all of these things and the rumor that was going around about, the relationship between the president and the commerce minister, President Boakai, he did not enjoy the president's confidence anymore. So it is very easy to sit here and say, "Oh, he did not." I mean,
He did not. There is no public record that he did. So don't try to say what did not happen.
I mean, Modad didn't. Excuse me.
He
I mean,
did
Modad
not.
didn't. Excuse me.
No, you interrupted. Oh, you don't like interruption now. You don't like interruption, right?
Excuse me.
After you
Excuse me.
interrupted me
Excuse
so
me.
many times,
Excuse
now you
me.
don't like it.
Excuse me.
Oh no, but you
Okay.
don't like interruption now.
Okay,
You
Excuse me.
all right.
interrupted me so
All
many
right.
Excuse
times,
me.
but
Gentlemen,
now you
okay.
don't like it. You're not
Excuse
enjoying
me.
it.
Excuse me.
Gentlemen,
But you wanted me
gentlemen,
to enjoy the
Excuse me.
interruption you did.
Gentlemen.
Excuse me.
gentlemen.
There's no
all right.
public record that
All
President
right,
Boakai asked him
gentlemen.
to resign.
So,
It's not
Dr.
happening.
Pearson, I see.
Pastor,
It never
Pastor,
happened.
this is
It did
Pastor.
not
This
Gentlemen.
is very Pastor.
Gentlemen.
This is
It
very
did not
childish.
happen. It did not happen. Don't deceive the
Pastor,
people. It never
Pastor,
happened.
this is very
Gentlemen.
childish.
It
Gentlemen.
didn't happen.
Gentlemen,
So-
let's maintain decorum. I
Let's-
don't have the administrative privileges to
Pastor,
mute.
you cannot run
It
the
did
Liberian
not happen.
Republic.
It did not happen, Muhammad. It did not
You
happen.
can't run the Republic of Liberia this way. It's very childish of you.
I'm not the
Anyway,
president.
give
I'm
Vic-
not the president.
All
The
right,
president did not ask Amin to resign. There's no record to prove that.
Gentlemen,
So,
please.
Everything
Pastor,
is hearsay. Oh, we heard that they have meeting. Publicly, he never did. So if it was not done publicly, then you cannot come on this platform and say he did it publicly. It never happened. There's no record.
are you done?
All right.
Are you
Okay,
done?
gentlemen, we got to move on with this. Dr.
I
Pearson,
mean, you're trying to be president of the Republic of Liberia, for God's sake. You
That's
can't
why I'm
run
trying
the
to spread
Republic
truth
like that.
and not lies. That's why I'm spreading truth and not lies. Don't come here.
Victor, please
to say
move on.
President Boakai fire Amin Moda. It
Please
never
move
happened.
on, because this is very
It did
juvenile.
not happen, Muhammad. I would not listen to that. It didn't happen. President Boakai
I-
did not
Victor,
fire him.
I
He
know-
resigned on his
Yes.
own. He resigned on his own.
Gentlemen,
Say the
Victor,
truth.
please move on. Please
Gentlemen.
move on.
Resign on his
I
own.
can't move on. I can't move on when the two of you are talking, and I
He
can't mute
resigned
any
on
of
his
you
own.
because I
But
don't
move
have.
on. He's not going to
I
stop.
don't have the privileges.
You not
here.
stopping either.
You know,
Why
he's
you
a-
try?
he's
You
a-
want to take the moral high ground?
All right,
You
gentlemen, let's leave it
interrupted
there.
me.
Let's
Since
leave it
the
there.
show started, I
Dr.
did not
Pearson,
interrupt anybody. You interrupted me. You brought us to where we are. Why
Gentlemen,
you can't even take fault?
All right,
Give
gentlemen.
Victor, please move on.
gentlemen,
This
let's
is very
move on. Dr.
juvenile.
Pearson, you wanted
The
to
man is lying.
clarification on
Yeah,
this.
okay, it's okay.
Thank you, Mr. Nagbe. You see, I would say this much, right? This is what happens to ordinary citizens when you have bad leadership. I see two of my learned brothers here arguing over bad leadership of President Joseph Yaman Boakai, and assuming that they are both of them wrong, and going at each other's throat when they are not looking at the one that got them doing what they are doing right now. President Boakai did not release any letter, any publication, any press release that indicate that Amin Moda was dismissed from his position as a minister of the Ministry of Commerce. There is no publication to that effect. There is no publication, official publication on the executive website posting, or on the executive mansion Facebook posting that says President Boakai refused to meet Amin Moda. Zero, non-existent. Our president has been muted.
There's a newspaper article. Did you read a newspaper article?
Listen,
Why you keep interrupting people?
Mohammed.
Let the man land.
Right.
Mohammed, in my profession, I got a couple of institutions that I am a founder of and running in Liberia. If I had one of my employees did something out of the way and I needed to dismiss them, through my HR, I will issue them a letter. And if I wanted to warn the public that they're no longer in the service of the employer of my company or my organization, I will do that in the newspaper. I'll go public. If I do not do that, even where I am in the United States of America right now, if we want to fire people in our office, and you know that very well, HR will serve you a notice. And if they don't even write you, they will call you to the HR office and say, turn in your stuff, you are dismissed, and you walk out. But the point of the matter is that if you do not do that, and the person willing to resign and walk away, you did not fire them. It's as clear as day. So why would we be learned individuals sitting and allow President Boakai to put our heads together and make us to look silly so that people let Sam Wallow then will be making comment on it here, telling Pastor Salif to go back to preaching and forget. President Boakai did not dismiss Ami Modan. It is plain as day. And let me move forward. And I will say this, that's why leadership requires for you to be very meticulous about what you want to achieve as a leader. President Boakai needed to suspend people. There is a press release on the Executive Mansion website that all government officials who did not declare the assets are dismissed. He wanted to get rid of the lady at the NAFEL. He put a public letter out that she is suspended. He wanted to do the same thing to Nuka Bus. He put a public notice up that she's suspended. He wanted to do the same thing to LTA. He put a public notice up that they are suspended. There is no public notice from the president's office. Amin Moda was dismissed for his behavior, as well as our former Minister of Justice, Prince Steve Johnson, who also willingly resigned. So let us not do anything that will make us look small yet.
All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. Duke, I know you and I have been spectators here. And so before we fall asleep, these guys, they're duking it out. But listen,
Dear Victor,
as far as I know,
dear Victor, I'm coming for a second. I'm having an internet issue.
Okay.
And I'm down here.
I think it's already gone. It's frozen. Mohammed, are you there?
It's probably frozen.
I'm here.
Yeah. Go ahead. You didn't end your thought. You're having internet issues. That's what we heard. There you go.
I don't know if you can. I don't know if you can hear me.
We can hear you.
Look,
we can hear you. Have you switched device? Have you switched devices yet? You said you might do that mid-show.
I haven't switched since. Since we'll be finished soon.
Yeah. Okay.
Hopefully soon.
Okay.
But look, in politics, so Dr. Pearson, you made an excellent point, right? And I agree with you. There was no written communication from the president regarding this effect. There is a newspaper article, however, when the president returned from some official visit. The president is very important minister. All of this was going on. We made analysis on this show at some point. Other shows did the same. When the president returned, his very important commerce minister, he did not want to meet with his commerce minister. There's report that the commerce minister was in tears. So this commerce minister did not want to go. This is not the way you leave your important position. But what I would like to do now, I would like to leave this as it is, because we can move on to the next topic of conversation. I don't want to belabor this point anymore. People have their own interests. You have your interests. Pastor Salif, who's thinking about running in 2029, has his own interests. You guys have interest in this issue. I have zero interest in this, so I don't want to prolong this conversation, especially with Pastor Salif. At some point, it's getting juvenile. So let's move on. Let's discuss critical issues.
Yep, let's move on. Got you, Duke. I wanted you to chime in on this topic, the whole corruption perception index, and somehow we went down the rabbit hole of comparing which of these two presidents fired for corruption. But what's your take on this whole corruption index? The fact that we seem to have gone up at least 2 points. We seem to have improved by 2 percentage points on the on
You know,
the scale?
this thing actually started when our government was in place, and my argument has always been the only reason that improvement occur is because they are looking forward to um, getting they're looking forward to getting some more money from the international donors, and so they need to behave. They need to make sure that they satisfy the requirements so that more money will come in for them to embezzle. And so it did not come in. It did not happen because they are trying to bring down corruption. It did not happen because they mean well. If you want to know what I'm saying here, go on the street and talk to the ordinary Liberian man and woman, boy and girl on the streets, whether there has been any improvement in their lives, and whether he or she feels that the government is doing anything to improve their lives. So the index for me, it means really nothing if Liberia moved 2 places, 4 places, and nothing is happening in the country. What does that mean? So what's the benefit of moving 2 places or 3 places when no impact is being felt on the ground? And again, to me, I see this as a one more reason why our politicians are going to be energized to want to be part of that government, because then it opens more avenue for them to embezzle. It opens more avenue for them to steal. So really, I mean, in order for me to put value to these things, to these statistics by these international institutions, I like to see tangible impacts on the Liberian people, on the Liberian economy, on the Liberian school system. I mean, all these things are statistics drawn somewhere, I don't know, in Washington, in Germany, or in, I don't know, wherever it was, or wherever it is. But David, you have to look at this thing in the context of the ordinary men and women of the Republic of Liberia who are burdened by the mismanagement of our economy, who are burdened by the massive corruption that is ongoing in our country. So moving 2 points here, moving 2 points there, in reality, it doesn't mean nothing, because I mean, you look, Jeff. Every time I see these things that we're supposed to do, things that we are capable of doing, that will really improve our lives, we see them. They are so open. We have what many countries, many people in the world needs, and that is going to make a significant difference. And Victor, let me just share with our audience a story that I heard about Apple, the maker of the iPhone, Apple. They tried to sell Apple in Indonesia, and the Indonesian found out that Indonesia has a local law that says that any product, such as telephones or whatever, in order to sell for any company to sell their product on the Indonesian market, at least 40% of the component of that product must be locally sourced. And so therefore, Indonesia found out that Apple did not meet that requirement. And so they refused to accept Apple to sell their product on their market. So Apple offered them some number of $1 million, and Indonesia said no. They stood their ground, and Apple doubled it. Still, Indonesia stood their ground. They tripled it. They stood their ground. They have not changed their mind. And their argument was because Apple has close to $2 billion investment in nearby Vietnam, where some of these phones are made. So if Apple is serious, let them make similar investment in Indonesia. That way, then they will accept Apple. So I'm only using this as an example analogy to see that we can do similar thing to our country if our politicians, if our leaders are serious in developing and wanting to bring investment in our country. All the minerals that we have there, people need them. Country need them. Investors need them. But we need to have serious people who mean well, who first priority is Liberia and Liberians, not people who are willing, whose interest is to line up their pockets. So if this is just, I mean, when I came across this thing that I just told you guys, no matter what you say about this country, but you see where they are going with this. You see what their intent, what their intentions are. Now, one analyst was on that program who said, in the end, Apple is going to burst simply because Apple see the potential. Indonesia is one of the very populous countries of the world, and the young people among that population is very high, and so Apple see the potential there. Apple feels that whatever investment they make there, they will have an awesome return on the investment. So this is not to say that politicians in Indonesia are not corrupt or whatever, but you can see from this example how they are trying to benefit the country, how they're trying to bring jobs. I mean, the fact that you must have 40% of whatever component of your product must be locally sourced, that in of itself is an encouragement to bring about local jobs, to bring about employment, etc., etc. Now, National Investment Commission that we have, what are they doing? I mean, get me, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know when was the last time we had any major company that was bringing in the foreign direct investment in our country since 2000. When was it? 2000? Is it 17 or 18? And I'm talking about companies that we know of, like global companies that are, known in foreign direct investments, who say they will come and develop our country through their investments. Where where are the people? And in fact, I know I read somewhere also that one of the areas that Joseph Boakai has been lacking in his government in terms of things he promised is the lack of attention being paid to the National Investment Commission. When a huge potential lies there to do a lot for Liberia. But instead they are focused on things that are just governing related, something that South Sudan, who is a new country, is supposed to be worried about. And we, 170-year-old country, those are the things that we are worried about. So we need serious politicians. We need people who are looking beyond the moment, who are looking for the future of Liberia.
Thank you, Duke. Thank you. So, gentlemen, we're going to go around the room. No editorializing, no, just yes or no. And then we'll move on to our final topic. Duke, we'll begin with you since your mic is so hot. Do you think Marfinda, who is selling porter on the market, this 2-point jump or 2 points increment on the perception index scale, you think Marfinda is going to feel it? Just a yes or no. Do you think she will feel like she's feeling an improvement in our fight against corruption?
Absolutely no. That was just what I was telling you. It means nothing to the ordinary man on the street in Monrovia or in Buchanan or anywhere else for that matter.
Thank you. SD.
No, the simple answer is no. And I don't see anything to celebrate in there. It's like, I'm just thinking you owe somebody $5,000 and maybe you pay them $10. Then you say, oh, celebrate the person making effort. That's not an effort. That's an it's
You
money.
panelists, you got high heel. I say yes or no. But everybody got out there. Dr. Piercing, the doctor. Let's see what the educator will say. Yes or no.
I think it's a big no, very very big no in capital letters.
Yeah. Mohammed, all the way from the Far East.
No.
Yeah. I don't believe. I mean, it's probably a feel good news, but I don't know. To the extent that we hear the stories and read about them every day, I'm shocked, even shocked that the Transparency International will report that we'll move at 2 points. I'm shocked, to be honest. I think the realities in the street contradict this perception. I don't know when this analysis, this assessment was taken, but I think the reality really contradict that. But let's move on to our last topic, gentlemen. Our last topic is on reparation. This is a topic that is all over the place. The Indian, local, the indigenous here, African Americans, everybody is demanding to be made whole due to some injustices that were meted out to either our ancestors or some, the Indians here. The Americans stole their land. Some they gave them some money back. African Americans here were promised, I think, what is it, 40 acres and a mule or something like that. There are demands for reparation all over the place. But the report seems to be a little mixed in terms of the for fulfilling or adhering to the demand. There were several concessions made, even by the U.S. government, and then they reversed themselves. So it's really the level of progress on this front is not really encouraging. But yet, at the AU summit in Addis Ababa, I believe the Prime Minister of Barbados, I believe, she made I understand, a very very fiery speech where she urged the gathering heads of states, to step up and demand that reparations be made to Africa. And I think our president, he himself, made a speech on that, supporting the call. We ourselves, Liberia being, I don't know, I'm not a historian, but I refuse to say Liberia was founded by free slaves. I really think we were there before they came in, but that's another topic for another day. But Dr. Pearson, do you think this is something that is worth our effort right now? I mean, I know it's a good advocacy, for the oppressed people around the world, but is this something that really our president and maybe the continent, in the face of Donald Trump, right now, kind of folding up, from active participation in international, interactions? You think we have the point here, Africa as a continent and Liberia in particular?
Dennis, that question, not Dennis, but sorry, Nangwe, that question is
I look better than Dennis, so
yeah, that question is a very good question. There are two things. There are two things to look at quite carefully. When I wrote my master's program in peace and conflict studies, one of the things that we learned was the issue of justice, in terms of restorative justice, and the core one, restorative justice, and the next one was the one that you do, criminal accountability, right? So so restorative justice requires that, if someone did something to you and you got injured by what they did, they could pay for damages, right? And then that could suffice if that's what you want to do. Like South Africa did, and other guys did through the truth and reconciliation process. They went for restorative justice, right? But there are others who may want accountability for criminal accountability purpose. They want you to go to jail, other kind of thing. All right. So
punitive justice.
Yeah.
Punitive justice.
Punitive justice. So the point of driving idea is that there are, the second point is that there are historical accounts for instances where the West held some African country, liable for restoration, like in the case of retributive justice, as in the case of as in the case of Muammar Gaddafi. Anybody remember the Lockerbie bombing?
Yes.
Right. So
yes.
Muammar Gaddafi was held liable for the Lockerbie bombing, and then they have Libya paying ransom, paying restorative figures to Europe for that bombing. Right. Now, can Africa show any viable injury by virtue of the interaction with the West, for which they want the West to pay for damages that have happened in Africa because of the interaction through the colonial period or the post-colonial period? I mean, that's an argument that we can make. I, for one, would say, technically speaking, without any judicial mindset like a lawyer, I would say, if I look back on how our human resource was affected, how our natural resources was exploited, and all of those things, yeah, we probably might make a call for some restorative justice in terms of reparation. But this is the catch for me. Then I close. This is the catch for me. Did things like that happen without the acquiescence of African leaders? I think that's a perspective of African history we need to look at, because when our town chiefs and kings and royal families sold our African brothers into slavery, they received some level of reward for that transaction. And, if you look back in history, and when you look at post-colonial period, majority of the wealth that were exploited from Africa was with the acquiescence of our elected officials or whoever was in government. Liberia, for example, in the Firestone. Liberia, for example, with Lamco. Liberia, for example, with Bomb Mining Company. They exploited us, but we did, for some reason, I'm not sure what's wrong with us as Africans, we facilitated our own exploitation. So I'm saying there could be some case for us, but I'm not sure how well it's going to hold up in court of law. So I wait to see how it's going to play in international court of justice.
Right.
To be very frank, from a legal perspective.
And I absolutely agree with you, but the point can also be made that in addition of slavery and all of that, there are suppressive measures and mechanisms that are in place on the international market that is also suppressing the advancement of the development of the African economy on what shall we say, bias, economic practices, regulations and stuff like that. I think there's also some argument to be made there. Mohammed, what do you think?
Yeah, so I don't think that what Clarence said, that chiefs are selling their own people. So now you can't go after you can't win anything. You can't win this in court. No, that's not the case. These Europeans exploited our resources. They exploited our people. They stole our. They came to Africa. Who invited them to Africa? Who called them in to come over? Our people welcomed them. Our people were, they turned that generosity into cruelty, where chiefs, I mean, keep in mind, our people mentally, their mentality was totally changed from that of people who are defending their own people to now lackeys and stooges of Europeans. So the few that you're talking about that colluded and collaborated with the Europeans, their minds were so infused with money. This is what's going on now. What do you think we're talking about? Neocolonialism. What is all that about? That's all it's about. So when these people came in, and so between the 15th to 18th century, during that period, when our people were forcibly conscripted in the most brutal manner ever, that I call the African genocide. So millions, tens of millions of people died at sea. Millions and millions of others were transported to Brazil and other places, Argentina and other places. The few that were, only a few, can you imagine this, came to the United States. The vast majority were taken into sugarcane and cotton plantations, in different parts of the world. So we Africans are responsible for the economic growth of Europe that way. We're responsible for everything that they have now. So yes, we deserve, Africans have to have that reparation. I'm a supporter, a big supporter of reparation for the African genocide. There was and after slavery, when the slave trade was over, they still didn't go away. So you have the colonialists. So Europe again contrived a plan in the 1880s, in the late 1880s, to carve up African lands, and there again was massive genocide all over the African continent. In Congo, for example, over 10 million people was killed by the King of Belgium. And the worst massacre ever. In Namibia, millions of Africans were massacred by the Germans all over Africa. There were massacres upon massacres of the African people for their wealth, for all of what we have. And the Europeans stole our resources and built their continent. So yes, if you will, we deserve. It's not a matter of, oh, we beg you, Papa, please give us some money. We have to demand of the Europeans that we must have this reparation. And Clarence talks about the restorative and retributive justice. Both is applicable. Both are applicable in this situation. People have to be held accountable. Nobody was held accountable for the slave trade. Nobody was held accountable for colonialism. Nobody was held accountable for neo-colonialism. And today we have the neo-colonialism still on the African continent. People like Mobutu was bought. That's what Clarence was talking about. People like Mobutu was bought. People, the leaders that we know, Ofu Boanya and others were bought. Nyasimba Yadima, people like that was bought to destroy our continent. Patrice Lumumba was murdered. The democratically elected prime minister of the Congo, the independent leader of the Congo, was murdered. Since then, do you see any peace in Congo now? What it did to us? I said on the other show, the Europeans came in, they drew their colonial boundaries, and they said, Jay, Victor, and myself, that we're different people. Different, even people who spoke the same language,
Right.
like Brother Duke and I, they may go somewhere and lay down their colonial boundaries and say, you see that other man, he's from different country, and you are from a different country. The destruction is still with us. The pathological legacies of that destruction is still with us. So Africa has to continue that drumbeat. They have to continue to talk about it. The president of Trinidad and Barbados has been a champion on this issue. I will hope that all of the other African leaders catch on to this. But you know what? Just to go back to Clarence's point,
Yeah.
these African leaders now, all they want is the breadcrumbs that fall down at the table of the Europeans. They're
Yeah.
not serious about this, and they need to be serious about it.
Thank you. I think one of the strong voices too on reparation in recent times has been the former AU ambassador, I believe, to is it UN. I'm not sure if we have that, but there's this lady, and at the point I see some of the writings here, and she is saying that and I had to look it up. Um, Francophone countries, I think some of them deposit their own money into French banks, and then they are charged interest to draw down on that money. And I think in the recent departure or the recent deportation, if I should, I'm not sure that's the right word, but the recent dismissal of some of these military people, French military groups in the recent in some of the West African countries, I think that's part of it. These young military leaders have decided, that France has taken enough away from Africa. Somewhere I was reading too, I believe Germany and Britain may have returned some of the artifacts that they took from Africa. I think France has absolutely refused to do so. So, there are several different ways that I think reparations can be made to Africa. But I also agree, Dr. Pearson has a point. Some of these people were sold into slavery by their own people, by their own kings, and because
Jim Victor,
you
if you please, if you allow. So for us now to sit around and blame the victims of their own genocide, it's very I disagree, J. Victor. I disagree with you. I disagree with Clarence on this point. I disagree with you, J. Victor, respectfully to you on this point. So the idea that victims, the idea that Europeans who came invaded our continent and came and settled among us and
Right.
used these chiefs against their own people, brainwash these chiefs. A few Europeans, maybe 20, 30 will go in a place. And how is it that these Europeans who give them the right to come into Africa and do the thing that they're doing? That's why Chinua Achebe, the great Chinua Achebe, said that when they talked that very question. He said, but did we go to Europe or the Europeans come to us? And again, gentlemen, I'm just respectfully disagreeing with you. But I
Gotcha.
get your point. I get
This
your point. I get it.
disagreement
You
taken.
not conspire against your own people. I get all of these points. So it's a very, very deep and intricate, argument.
Got you. Duke and ST, unfortunately, will give you very brief, minutes to respond, maybe a minute or so, because we got to take a few calls. Dennis was out during some parts of the program, and so he was having difficulties managing the equipment, but he's home now. So I think we can take a few calls. So I will let you guys chime in, but please keep it brief, starting with you, ST, and then Duke, you can come in. Callers, if you're out there, please bring your phone close, and the numbers are on the screen. You know what to do. Please give us a call so you can join the conversation. ST, what do you think, man?
I
Reparation?
think discussing reparation nowadays is kind of it's frivolous to me. because for a few reasons. Right now, what we should be doing is every African country should be protecting their resources and now and trading them in a way that benefits their country. Even if reparation was possible and they brought lump sum amount, it's still going to go right into the pockets of African politicians. It's not like it's going to trickle down to the grassroots. That's not going to happen. But I wanted to chime in on something Dr. Pearson said. Africans sold their own people. What's the proof that we have? We don't have any proof. History is written not by the victims, it's written by the victors. So what the European told us is the talking point that we're parroting right now. There was no dialogue. These people came with weapons, unless you're telling me that, Native American, Native Indians in America, they sold their land to Caucasians that came from Europe. That did not happen. They murdered millions of Native Americans and took their land. Are you going to say they sold it to them? Are you going to say apartheid in South Africa, the South Africans themselves brought it on themselves? The Europeans came to Africa when Africa was a dark continent. They came with weaponry. They came with everything. And they forcefully took our people and wrote in their history book that all these things are lies. So I'm not going to parrot European talking point to say, Africans sold their own people. What is the proof that we sold our people? I need to see that proof in black and white. And who wrote it? Was it written from the perspective of Africans, or was it European that wrote it? What bargaining power? Right now, there is negotiation going on in Saudi Arabia, United States, and Russia. They're going to discuss Ukraine, and Ukraine is not at the table. But then 50 years, 100 years from now, they will say, oh, yes, Ukraine agreed to these things. And then we say, yes, Ukrainians brought it upon themselves. But right now, America and Russia are discussing Ukraine's fate, and Ukraine is not invited to the table. So what power did Africans have at the time Europeans invaded their land? What power did they have? They had no power. Somebody came and pointed a rifle to you that you have never seen before. They killed 2, 3 of your brothers in front of you and said, we're taking these other 4 men. What power did you have at that time to say no to the European power? And then they wrote to say, we sold our people. Africans should not fall for that rhetoric. It is brainwashing, and we should not stand for it.
Good point. ST, I have to admit, I was in agreement with Dr. Sully. I've read some of these somewhere, but you're right, there is reason to question the accounts. I mean, but even in our own land, we know of the smoke fish and all of that with the can and all of that. But again, we should question.
And of course, Fernando Poe.
Yeah, exactly. But let's go ahead, Duke. Just go ahead and chime in right away.
Yeah, Victor, this question of reparation, I think by every measure, including international law, there is a solid ground upon which a successful legal, case can be mounted. But unfortunately, you have to remember one thing. Someone made a reference to the former AU ambassador to the United States, Dr. Arikana Chiombori. And one of the reasons why her call was not successful is that this notion of Anglophone and Francophone in Africa has been one of the reasons a lot of things have not happened in Africa. And so this thing about reparation, it's something that I think it will require some leadership. And I don't see the leadership that is capable of seeing this thing to fruition on the African continent right now. Simply because, the Francophone and Anglophone divide is one part of it. And and somebody said it before, or I read it somewhere. One of the dangerous countries that have kept Africa as a continent backwards is France. And so, and this person was illustrating to the fact that the unified monetary system of West Africa, one of the reasons why it hasn't come to fruition is because of France not wanting their colony to abandon the franc, which is the CFA. And so myself, my brother, who was the deputy governor for Central Bank under George Weah, was actually brought from Freetown, where this African West African monetary thing is based in Freetown. And he also mentioned something similar to me. So in order for any reparation to succeed in any legal challenge, we have to have a unified front on the continent in terms of leadership. And at this point, I don't see that leadership existing on the continent right now, Victor. I will leave it there.
Thank you. You know, as an aside note, as I was getting ready for this discussion, I was reading up on the reparation. I almost cried. I heard this before, but I didn't really give it much thought until I actually read it. That the Haitians were actually made to pay the slave owners as opposed to the slaves being paid, as
Yes.
1825, 150 million francs, and that left that country poor for over 100 years. Crushing under that burden, 150 million francs at the time. I was like, this can be true.
Yeah.
Now,
And that's what
give me 30 seconds, just 30 seconds to say something.
That's what the Trump administration is doing
Just
right
30
now.
seconds.
Black people in
As-
America.
Dr.
Thank
ST,
you to the French, Victor.
Dr.
The French.
Pearson, ST, and then you come in.
So that's exactly what the Trump administration is trying to do right now. After all the suffering, brought on the African Americans in the Americas, Trump and his administration now is saying the white men who owned the slaves were the victims, and they prefer to pay them reparations instead of paying the black men reparations.
And they're they're claiming lost revenue because these people can you imagine that?
Yeah.
Duke, I think you want to say something about Dr. Pearson will come in and then
Just 30 seconds. Look, I know it is emotional when Africans and like us Africans talk about history in relation to the slave trade. But sometimes it's important that you take the emotions out of it and look at the facts and the realities on the ground. I am baffled when I hear people say that the Europeans and the Americans are 100% to blame for Africa's situation with the exploitation of our resources and with the slave trade. Now, there are credible authors out there. We need to read. Now, let me name a few of the credible authors you need to go look for. Tanzania, one of the professors, John Lafitte, read his book, The History of the Continent, Africa, the History of the Continent. Read that book. He gave you an insight. Read Professor Joseph Inakari from Nigeria. Read his book also. He gives you insight. Read Professor A.G. Hopkins. Read his narrative. Read Professor Tonya Falola from Nigeria. Read Professor Henry Louis Gates. Read his narrative. Read Professor Akosua Odoma Pebi from Ghana. And I can go on. There are a few more from Nigeria again. There are clear historical contexts. I'm not saying with the Europeans they now hurt us, but we did have a significant role to play. It's almost like saying, hey, the guys came in and organized a slave trade, and because of that, we did not play a part, so we blame them 100%. Our close on Liberia, Liberia. Even in the 1800s, after we got our independence in Liberia, we're still selling slaves in Liberia. Liberia, the oldest republic.
I think
After our independence,
that's what
we're still selling slaves.
That's what Duke was alluding to. But okay, thank you, Dr. Pearson. Duke, did you want to say something, or did I?
I wanted to make a reference when you talk about the Haiti experience.
Yeah.
That had to do with the French. It was the French that did that.
Yeah.
Remember that Haiti is the oldest black majority country in this hemisphere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just like you get it. I mean, there are other instances too where the slave owners, they demanded reparation because their slaves were being taken, they were being dispossessed of their slaves, and they were going to lose revenue. It's just like, Dennis, if you're in the back there, if there's anyone on the line, we can take a few calls.
If we don't have any caller yet, Jeff Victor, let me just chip in this thing 2 seconds.
Okay.
I understand what Dr. Pearson is talking about, but let's look at it. It's the same thing that is still happening today. European powers trying to bargain with Africans for their resources. They tell you, if you don't do this, we're not giving this to you. So some of those things that we call bargaining They were actually duress. You don't have a way out. You're between a rock and a hard place. Today, America is still doing it. If you don't give us this, we're not going to give you this. And then that's not a fair bargaining to say, oh, they sold it willfully, volitionally. No,
Right.
people were put under pressure.
Got you. Dennis, do we have anyone?
Victor, if I can chime in also.
The color hang up because you guys
Oh, sorry.
they pay to be on there, right? Because they pay.
Oh,
So when they're taking long, they hang up.
okay.
Sorry.
All right. Thank you. Sorry there, caller. If you don't mind calling back, but if you
But
don't,
just
Victor, I don't know when I'm going to get disconnected. If I
right?
just make my point.
Mr. Sharif, just think of the war years where we have warlords, right? So
Right.
if Charles Taylor, if Haji Krumai, all these people did anything, right? So just picture that has people selling slaves. So they have always been bad people.
Yeah.
There has always been warlords. So Africans themselves did participate. But those people who did it were not good people, just like we saw during the war.
We cannot say as Clarence is saying, and it's very dangerous to say we play a significant. We have to, that qualifier is very troubling to me. Read Professor Edward Baptiste, Shem Becker, and others who have talked about America's economic growth being linked to slavery. Read those reputable historians, not those who have been influenced by Western ideology, who have been bought by Western, by Westerners. The narrative is skewed towards they may be black, but their mentality is white. So I disagree, and I want to challenge the conclusion that you made that this is very emotional. This is not, one of those issues where we're threading on emotion. It's the reality of the situation. Who gave Portugal and Spain the right in the 1300s, in the 1400s to go all across the world? The Pope said, go to wherever you can go. And they came and colonized the Indians and whatnot. So let's not get into a lot of because this is a big conversation. It's bigger than what you are trivializing this to be. Oh, we are responsible for our own suffering.
Mohammed, let me take it home for you like this. It's just like even in our local villages, right? There were men that married little girls because let's assume I'm owing J. Victor so much money. I can't pay back. J. Victor tell me, okay, your wife is pregnant. If she has a girl child, you will give her to me as my wife. I owe the man money I can't pay. So at the end of the day, I agreed to that terms. Then somebody say, oh, I sold my daughter to J. Victor. No, I did not sell my daughter to J. Victor. I did not have the money to pay. And so he took advantage of my economic status. That is not fair trade. So to say, oh, we sold our people under one condition. What was the condition?
As Mr. Salif, a few things are getting for you guys. Number one, you guys are saying Africans are inferior. Africans are intellectually poor. And then we will be the simple to make argument in intellectual.
No, that's not what we're saying. That's not what me and
we are the same intellectuals that will say African civilization started in Africa. We'll be the same one to say.
Let's take one color.
Right?
Let's take one color.
Thank you, Dennis. I take the color. They made it make it a little small here.
I'm shocked. I'm shocked that Clarence is going in this direction.
Hello, your name? Where are you calling from?
Hello. Yes. Good evening. My name is Mohammed Sharif. I'm calling from Charlotte, North Carolina.
We have another Mohammed Sharif on the show, and you are the second Mohammed. Anyway, there's a Mohammed Sharif. That's fine. Go ahead.
Well, listen, I really enjoy you guys. I enjoy the show and the topic you guys talking about. I just wanted to, to register this thought. The solution, we know those facts are there. The issue of slavery, there's a lot of narratives. If you look at a Western narrative, of course, we're going to be victimized twice. Like the panelists are saying, that is actually true. They'll make us believe that we are part of it. We brought this on ourselves. But when you look at the writings of African writers, African historians, you will know that actually most of those things, there's some truth to that. But this is an external force came to us, basically start, being savage being violent on us. But all of that is history. When we know that, it makes us strong going forward. One of the argument or the discussion that I have with people on a daily basis, or even every now and then when I have the occasion, is what do we do about it? These people, there's no way the European can overpower us in any other way when it comes to strength, resources, intellect, education, wisdom, all of those things. We were way advanced before them. But why, throughout history, they continue to dominate us is our soft spot. We are very kind, spiritual people. We are very connected to nature. So we keep on giving in that. And as a result, they divide us. Whenever they divide us, they can conquer us. And that's what they did. So now it's the same thing. Some of us, when we talk about Pan-Africanism, we frown upon that. We marginalize those who are talking about Pan-Africanism. We stigmatize them. We say they are troublemakers. But that's our only way out when it comes to politics. Our political salvation will really come in our unity. And one of the ways we look at, we can't say we're all going to be communist or we're all going to be socialist, but it's our own brand that we have is Pan-Africanism, which is a combination of all of those things. So I think that one of the best ways forward today for Africa is really to form our solidarity, knowing that we have everything we need to survive and to dominate. And not only to dominate the world, but to actually have a control of our destiny to some extent. And that begins with us having dialogue, frank dialogue among ourselves, and creating that solidarity and fostering those solidarity and being basically one of us, each other's keeper, uniting. If we are not united, the European will eat us. If they don't eat us, the Chinese or the Asian will eat us alive. But this time around, slavery is not going to be like in the past. In the past, that was completely different. This 21st century, slavery is going to be more dangerous, more violent, more savagery than the past. Because now we're talking about technology. We can literally, we can inflict cruelty on each other way more than what we ever read about. I think the intellectuals among us, you guys on the panel, the discussion you're having right now is great. It's a good discourse to be part of, to make our people aware of our history, but to also offer solution. I heard about restorative justice, or I'm kind of a guy exposed to that, doing criminal justice a little bit. That's a good thing. It's a good concept in the context of the Westerners. Like Liberia, let's take Liberia for instance. After the war, we just got into politics immediately. I always tell people it was the wrong time for us to be politically. Everybody is engaged in politics. Everybody is a journalist. Everybody have opinion. Everybody got expertise, and we just tearing each other down. We should have basically tried to heal ourselves. We were traumatized after our war. We never had the time to heal ourselves. And now everybody is politically liberated. Everybody wants to be politicians. Now we created a generation of thieves. And now they are stealing. We put them there to because they have strong mouth, and now we're complaining about them also. So there's a lot of things we're wasting our time on. That the discussion you guys are having right now, part of Liberia don't even care for that because they are basically trying to get some food on the table. The thieves are trying to steal. They don't care about any kind of Africanism or reparation or slavery or whatever. They don't. So it's a good discussion, but I hope and pray at the end of the day, some of you guys basically should try to push some way forward. So suggest something. And I believe it begins with mindset alteration, altering the mindset, particularly of the Liberian people. So I'll stop there, and I really thank you guys for giving me the platform to participate in your discussion. Brilliant discussion. I appreciate it. Good luck.
Thank you, Mohammed. One thing I always said is we always say, we worry about food. I mean, how long are we going to be worrying about this food? And therefore, we don't discuss anything else. Let me bring on this next caller. That's Evan Morris. Evis.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. John. And hello to the panelists. Look, when it comes to reparation for African Americans, 100% agree with you. It's due, they did tangible work, and they're still living under the authority of the nation that enslaved them. When it comes to Africa, absolutely not. No reparation for Africa. And here's my reason. You lost a war. Colonization was a warfare that you lost from other nations. You lost the war. They came there and they conquered you and they dominated you militarily and they took your resources. You think the Phoenicians will go ask the Romans for reparation after they went into Phoenicia and beat them during the Punic Wars? You think the Germans will ask the Americans for reparation after they went into the country and destroyed it? Matter of fact, it was the other way around. The Germans had to pay reparation after they lost the war. So it was a war that you lost. You were inferior in terms of your military might. They came in there and they dominated you. You think that the Israelites will ask the Babylonians for reparation for taking them out of their land and taking them to slavery? You think they ever asked them for reparation? So it's an embarrassment as Africans, as a continent, when we lose a war, for us to be asking the people who beat us to pay us, reparation. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. So I think we don't deserve any reparation.
Thank you.
If you're looking at the modern day when we have some treaties and we have certain agreements and they violated those agreements, you can go after them on a legal ground. But before those, UN, Geneva Convention, all of these different things, during the days of early colonization and slavery, they owe you nothing. They were on a conquest and they conquered you. You owe them if they wanted, like what happened in Haiti. You were assumed that Haiti won their independence, but really they negotiated their independence because if France had they sent a real military, would have, fought all the Haitians. That's why they agreed to that settlement. So usually the losers pay reparations, not the victim. So it's a silly question to ask. We don't deserve the reparation. They beat us. Fair and square. Literally, they beat us.
Thank you.
You didn't matter empire going to pay reparations all conquer when they Timbuktu or the Soviet Empire? Of course not. Even in our country, like the different tribes, the global crew wars, when they were fighting those wars, when people took land here and took land and killed people, they were asked for reparation. It was war. Not asked for reparation, it was war. But thank you for taking my call. I just want to say.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elvis. Was that the last one, Dennis?
But is this whole reparation thing attainable? Is this something that can be accomplished?
I think we went around. That was the beginning of our conversation.
Yeah, man. But we can close now.
Yeah, the result out there doesn't look too favorable for reparation. But gentlemen, we want to thank you ever so much. We have a few minutes left on the clock. I believe we start at 7:30 or so, just a little bit after. It's about 9:44. So let's keep it brief. Where did Duke go? There he is. Okay, so let's do our closing. Not more than a minute. We started with, any progress on the asset declaration front. We discussed that, so you might want to go in there, or corruption perception index, or reparation, or all three of them. 1 minute each. Let's begin with is Mama here? He was having internet problem. I want us to begin with him. All right, but Duke, you can go ahead.
Yeah.
There he is.
Thank you. Okay, he can go. Mohammed can go. It's okay.
Thank you, Duke. Mama, we know your internet is acting up. We're closing. Just 1 minute.
I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you. Now we can't. Okay, so I think he's struggling. Duke, you can go ahead. Mohammed, you back with us? No. Okay. Duke, you can go.
Yeah, Victor, thank you very much, and thanks to my fellow panelists. I think it was a good debate tonight. We had a good conversation. This notion about this asset declaration, I think we are far behind where we should be. It almost feels like it's the digression from where we're supposed to be, but it's okay. Now, I just hope that with this asset declaration thing that President Boakai has embarked on, to use the same vigor that he has exercised here in other areas that need the same vigor for him to straighten up his government. because as we are seeing, the 1 year mark that we just seen really doesn't give one the sense of hope that you need, because if this is the first year of someone with the experience of Joseph Boakai, the remaining 5 year doesn't look good. However, there are some bright spots, one of which is what we were just talking about tonight. I just hope that they can capitalize on that and try to straighten up some things. You know, J. Victor, this notion about reparation, I will come back to my point. I think there is a legitimacy to it. There is international law is on the side of people who are seeking reparation. But I'm very hesitant to say that I don't think we have the leadership that it needs to pursue this reparation thing here. I will leave it at that.
Thank you, Duke. ST, your closing.
Thank you. I think the show is a great show tonight. Those of us following from whichever platform you're following, one thing I want you to know that these people on this show, all the panelists, these are all professional people. Sometimes we disagree, sometimes we get heated. We don't take anything personal. Mohammed is my buddy. At the end of the day, we call each other, we talk to each other. So don't follow our disagreement here on air and think, oh, maybe something seriously is going on there. No,
man.
That's who we are. We disagree to agree. You saw me and Mohammed just went at it, but at the end, we joined together to go at Dr. Pearson, even though Pearson defended me in the beginning. So that's how the show flows. You know, the topic we're discussing is where it goes. So don't follow that and think something is amiss. But when it comes to the transparency index, I think moving up 2 points, you know, again, I told us last week, we love this Do Well trophy. That's the only trophy we win in Liberia. You know, a failure is a failure. If the failing mark is 50, just because you move up from 45 to 50 doesn't make you pass. You still have failed. You're moving up 2 points. There's nothing there to celebrate. In fact, it should be a shame that a country like Liberia will only be moving up after 10 or how many years, 2 points on the corruption index. Then we're supposed to celebrate. If we celebrate that, then that means fundamentally something is wrong with us, and we should not celebrate that. So that's what I would say. When it comes to reparation, let's forget about this. There's no reparation that is coming to Africa. The whole world, even in America, they've done reparation for Jewish. They've done reparation for Chinese. They've done reparation for so many other groups. Once it's Black people, it's not going to come. And the question will be, why do Africans need reparation? Even if the money is going right into the pocket of our politicians. So this is what I say. Let's protect the remaining resources that we have. Let's do clean business, fair transactions that will benefit our people, that will develop our country, and that will stem up corruption from our society. The reparation thing is not going to come. Joseph Boakai, don't even depend on it. Try to find a means to do some internal revenue generation, and let's protect what we have. The Chinese are all over in all the forests, taking out the minerals. Everybody there. That's what we should be focusing on, and not reparation. Bread is not coming from anywhere. No manna falling from the sky for us. Let's put in the work and let's develop our country.
Thank you, Reverend Sirleaf. Dr. Pearson, and Wall has been pretty rough on you tonight. But anyway, I know you've been going back and forth with him. But you're closing, and thanks for your input for the night.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Nagbe, for tonight. I want to say hi to those who just came on. Even my son is on there right now viewing. So
yes, I noticed he's all the way in Liberia, he said.
Yeah. And thanks to my fellow panelists. I think it was a good night, and I don't bother with the back and forth between panelists because that's what professionals would do. We discuss the issues, and it's not a problem. Look, I think the whole thing about the corruption index for Liberia is nothing to celebrate. Because I feel it's enough for President Boakai to show that they've done much to change the trajectory of corruption in our country, and nothing of that sort is going to help our people in Liberia. No, it's not helping us at all. So the next thing I would say, listen, when it comes to asset declaration, President Boakai is way behind schedule, and he's just doing that for a political show. And last but not the least, Africa. Yeah, listen. If we can get reparation, it's fine by me. But playing poor me and trying to run from the fact that we're a contributor towards the process and still is a contributor towards the process, I think we're just fooling ourselves and we're not being real to ourselves. We cannot be saying we are the civilization started with us. We have one of the most powerful empires in the world. We led nations. We conquered Europe, Southern Europe, and other kind of things. Then we come back and say we're victims. No, it doesn't work like that. You can either be a conqueror or you be a victim. You cannot claim one and dodge the other. I think Evans made a very good point. And I think I would say Africa, govern well, forget about the past. The past is behind you. Govern well right now, move Africa where it's supposed to be, and then we have nothing to look back on except for the future that is ahead of us. Thank you very much for tonight.
Thank you very much, Dr. Pearson. ST, Mohammed, I think he couldn't come back, but he typed in the chat room that he agrees with you. All is good. So I think all is good. So, gentlemen, let me thank you ever so much. I think tonight we did a lot of good justice of what you said to the topics. I know Wallo would disagree. He said this is a show of inconsistencies and contradictions. Well, yeah.
That's Wallo for you.
He's a grumpy, whether young or middle-aged man or whatever it is. But you guys, you did great tonight. Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, personally, I don't know if the asset recovery thing is really what this president intended it to be. Like I said, when the pronouncement was made, a lot of us thought they were going to crash the LACC with people flogging in with their declarations. But I think about almost a week in now, nothing has happened. I think the people have figured this president out. No, he's not. So I don't know. We'll see. I think he gave them 1 month to 90 days or so. So I don't know. Again, we also said the corruption perception index, 2 points up. Yeah, and commendable, at least 2 points up. But are the people really going to tell you they're feeling it in a real market or dollar market, I don't know. I don't know if it really means much to them. Reparation, I honestly, I don't know if we'll get anything out of it. I am one person who really believe if a cause is not going to benefit you, or if you're not going to reach a logical conclusion, it may not be worth undertaking. So I don't know if we're going to get anything out of it. We have yet to see. But thank you very much. Thanks to our callers. Thanks also to the audience. Very interactive tonight. A lot of new contributions were made tonight. New people joining in. If you guys will give me just a second, yes. Well, there you go. Liberia made positive steps forward on the corruption index for the first time in more than 10 years. Whatever. I mean, an F is an F, Wallo. If it is 49 or if it is 51, it's an F. Yeah, give yourself a break, man, before you bust a blood vessel. But I want to appreciate Wallo, however, for being on tonight. Elvis, for being on tonight. Let's see. Magdi Sharif for being on tonight. Also, Clarence Pearson Jr., all the way from LIB. Hope you're having a good time over there. Let's see. And also, let's see. I just wanted to give a shout out to our audience tonight.
There's one Kennedy, I don't know, Corey or...
Yeah, I think he's way down. I went all the way back up, but yeah, I noticed Corey Kennedy. Thank you also, Kennedy, for joining in. Thank you very much, Dennis. If you have nothing to say, we want to say thank you so much, and let our son take us home. As we always say, we are one. Whether you're for reparation or not, we're one, Liberia.
We are Liberia.